Your paycheck just went up. Your bank balance actually looks fine. So why does it feel like you're getting poorer every single month? Americans aren't necessarily making less money. They're getting less purchasing power from every dollar they earn. And by the end of this video, you're going to see exactly what's happening to that missing purchasing power. Because your money isn't simply disappearing, it's being absorbed by a chain of rising costs. And once you see that chain, you can't unsee it. Let's start with something simple. Take $100. A few years ago, that $100 could buy noticeably more groceries than it can today. Same store, similar brands, similar shopping list. But the total gets higher. And maybe you didn't suddenly start buying expensive food. Your money just became less powerful. Economists call this purchasing power. But here's a better way to picture it. Imagine your money is a bucket. Every year, someone quietly makes the bucket a little smaller. You're still holding the same looking bucket. You're still earning dollars. But it simply doesn't hold as much as it used to. That's what's happening when prices rise faster than your income. And honestly, that's the part people often miss. Here's where most explanations stop. It's inflation. End of story. But that doesn't really explain what you're experiencing, because inflation isn't one single thing pushing every price upward at exactly the same speed. Different parts of your life face different price pressures. Food can be affected by transportation costs, energy, weather, and supply disruptions. Housing can be squeezed by limited supply, construction costs, and years of underbuilding in many markets. Insurance can rise when repair costs increase and insurers face larger losses. Transportation can get more expensive because of fuel, vehicles, financing, and maintenance. And services, everything from childcare to haircuts to repairs, depend heavily on human labor. When wages and operating costs rise, the price of those services can rise too. So you see one inflation number on the news. But your life isn't one number. Your life is rent, groceries, insurance, transportation, childcare, utilities. And those individual expenses don't all move at the same speed. That's why even relatively moderate headline inflation can still feel brutal to your wallet. Now here's where it gets interesting. When you pay more for a candy bar, a haircut, or a car repair, where does that extra money actually go? Follow the trail. Raw materials, ingredients, and components can become more expensive. Those costs can eventually make their way into the price of the finished product. Then there's transportation. Fuel, trucking, shipping, and logistics all cost money. Every stage of moving something from one place to another can add to the final cost. Then there's labor. Someone has to grow it, make it, stock it, deliver it, sell it. When labor costs rise, businesses have to account for that somehow. Then there's rent. The store, restaurant, warehouse, or office doesn't exist for free. Commercial rent and other occupancy costs become part of the business's cost structure. Then there's energy, lights, refrigeration, factories, warehouses, delivery vehicles. Almost every part of the economy uses energy somewhere along the chain. And then there are taxes and fees. Depending on the product and location, taxes, permits, fees, and other government charges can also become part of what you ultimately pay. And finally, there's the company itself. Companies don't just want to recover their costs, they need to make a profit. And when demand is strong, competition is weak, or customers have already adjusted to higher prices, businesses may have more room to protect or expand their margins. So your extra dollar isn't necessarily going to one mysterious place. It's moving through an entire economic chain. Supplier, transport, labor, rent, energy, taxes, margin, and you're paying for that chain every time you buy something. Now think about that for a second, because here's the part that drives people crazy. Imagine fuel prices fall, shipping becomes cheaper, some supply problems disappear. Do prices automatically go back to where they were? Often, no. And here's why. Prices can be sticky on the way down. Businesses may raise prices quickly when their costs rise because they need to protect themselves from shrinking margins. But when some of those costs later fall, there isn't always an immediate reason to cut prices. Customers have already adjusted. The new price has become normal. And if people keep buying, a company has little incentive to voluntarily give that revenue back. This doesn't mean every company is secretly conspiring to overcharge you. It's much simpler than that. It's pricing psychology, competition, demand, costs, and expectations. Think of costs like a roller coaster. They can go up, they can come down. But consumer prices can behave more like a staircase. Up, up again, and Sometimes they stay there. That's why a temporary shock can leave behind a permanently higher price level. And then there's housing. Now, of everything getting more expensive, housing is one of the costs that can hit a household the hardest, because it's not just one expense, it's several expenses moving together. There's rent or the mortgage, that's the obvious one. And for many households, it's already the largest monthly bill. Then there's insurance. In some markets, premiums have climbed sharply as insurers deal with higher claims, rebuilding costs, and changing risk. And then there's the house itself. A roof, a plumber, an electrician, an air conditioner, a broken appliance. All of those depend on materials and labor, the same things we've already talked about. So housing costs don't always arrive as one giant increase. They can hit from several directions. Your housing payment rises, your insurance rises. A repair suddenly costs more, and all three come out of the same paycheck. That's why housing can make people feel financially trapped even when they have a stable job and a decent salary. And this is where it gets really confusing. Wages have gone up too, so shouldn't that cancel everything out? Well, this is where you need to understand two simple ideas: nominal income and purchasing power. Nominal income is simply the number on your paycheck. If your salary goes from $60,000 to $63,000, your income went up. That's real. But purchasing power asks a different question. What can that $63,000 actually buy? Imagine you get a 5% raise. Sounds good. But what if your biggest expenses rise faster? Rent goes up, groceries cost more, insurance costs more, transportation costs more. Your paycheck is bigger. But your purchasing power may not be, and that's the strange part of inflation. You can be earning more money than ever, while still feeling like you can afford less. The number goes up, the power goes down, and that's the gap most people actually feel. Here's the uncomfortable part. If your income rises 5%, but your essential expenses rise 7 or 8%, you're losing ground. Not necessarily because you're irresponsible, not because you bought too many coffees, not because you failed to make the perfect budget, it's math. If the things you have to buy are getting more expensive faster than your income, your financial breathing room gets smaller, and that's why someone can have a stable job, a decent salary, and still feel like they're falling behind. They're not necessarily imagining it. Their income may be rising, but their essential costs can be rising faster, and when that happens year after year, the effect compounds. You don't need one catastrophic expense to feel poorer. You can lose purchasing power one ordinary purchase at a time. So here's the real answer to the question we started with. Why is everything getting more expensive? Because there isn't one single answer. Different costs push through different parts of the economy. Suppliers, transportation, labor, rent, energy, taxes, margins. And when those pressures raise prices, your paycheck has to grow just to keep up. That's why the real problem isn't simply that everything became expensive, it's that your money became less powerful, dollar by dollar, purchase by purchase, year after year. And once you understand that, you stop asking, why is everything so expensive? And you start asking the much better question, where exactly is my dollar losing its power, and what can I actually do about it? That's what we're breaking down next. Subscribe for more simple explanations of the money and business forces changing your everyday life.